Coming up on Mountain News at 6 with Labor Day weekend here, many are heading out to the lake one last time before summer ends. Plus, one school district is still building back more than a year after the flood.
Plus, we are tracking warm and dry weather for the weekend and beyond. Your full forecast coming up as Mountain News at 6 starts now.
Dedicated to Eastern and Southern Kentucky, this is WYMT Mountain News at 6.
It is expected to be a very busy weekend on Lake Cumberland, with it being the last holiday weekend of the summer. Already, Fish and Wildlife officers have worked a number of crashes on the water. WYMT's Phil Pendleton has more on the call to be safe.
Families flock to Lake Cumberland during the summer and often on the long holiday weekends.
I love riding the jet skis that my grandparents have. They have two. Me and my family really love going fast on them.
But Riley DeVos says she knows full well how dangerous they can also be, saying safety is always paramount.
Safe, always wearing a life jacket, always keeping the wristband on just in case you fall off and stuff like that.
Fish and Wildlife officers have worked several crashes this summer alone, including one that led to the death of two teenage brothers from northern Kentucky.
Unfortunately, things like that happen. But again, we can kind of head that off if we kind of watch what we're doing on the water when we're out there, be aware of what's going on around us, be kind and courteous to other boaters.
And some people that have been here for the past week that have had jet skis, they say they're probably going to keep those jet skis put up this weekend because they know it's going to be extremely busy on the waterways the next 3 days.
But we make sure that the kids know not to go by any boats, stay safe, always look behind, always look ahead.
Police also say that if you're drinking and boating, you will be arrested. They say younger, inexperienced boaters can lead to accidents.
It's a huge body of water. People don't realize just how big this body of water is. And those are used to living in the city, maybe confined to an apartment, and they get here and they get the sense of, you know, it's wide open spaces. And
a large space, they say, can be deadly. People aren't careful. In Pulaski County, Phil Pendleton, WKYT.
Police say anyone 12 to 17 on a personal watercraft needs to have taken a safe boating class to operate them. Two people are accused of vandalizing a shelter building in Whitley County. The vandalism took place on Wednesday, but officers with the Williamsburg Police Department were able to arrest 35-year-old Joshua Douglas and 33-year-old Heather Maiden last night after obtaining warrants. Both Douglas and Maiden were taken to the Whitley County Detention Center. Both are charged with one count of criminal mischief. A Laurel County man is facing serious charges in a sexual abuse case. The Laurel County Sheriff's Office posted on Facebook deputies arrested 70-year-old Lanny Hacker of London yesterday morning. Few details were released, but the arrest occurred in London and was based on an investigation by the Sheriff's Office. Hacker is charged with rape, sodomy, incest, and unlawful transaction with a minor. He was taken to the Laurel County Correctional Center. A Harlan County man is dead after a crash in southwest Virginia last weekend. The crash happened on Duff Pat Highway in the Duffield community last Sunday evening. 25-year-old Jacob Napier of Harlan was thrown from his bike after trying to stop suddenly and subsequently went into the side of another person's car. The man driving the car turned at a nearby gas station and left the scene. Police later found the 56-year-old man inside a home in Lee County, Virginia. In Rockcastle County, a mobile home was destroyed by a fire overnight. Units were dispatched to the home that caught fire on Stevens Road just after 1:30 a.m. The Mount Vernon Fire Department and Brawhead Fire Department, along with the Mount Vernon Police Department and Jackson Energy, were all at the scene. The fire was put out using about 7,500 gallons of water. No one was hurt.
The weather is warm across the mountains as we close out the work week. Here's a live look from Buffalo Mountain. We are dry under some blue sky, but that temperature is much warmer today than it was yesterday. Temperature right now at 84 degrees here in Perry County. Most of us in the middle to upper 80s, 87 for Manchester, 85 in London, 84 over in Harlan County right now. So we are about 15 degrees warmer than we were this time yesterday. Up on the radar, though, we are dry as high pressure does continue. That's the main story into Labor Day weekend. High pressure keeps us dry, also warmer, but as we go into tonight, temperatures not as chilly as last night, falling into the 60s for most of us, maybe some upper 50s in those cooler pockets, but for most of us, we do stay in the 60s as you wake up and kick off the weekend on Saturday. And speaking of your Saturday, more heat on the way, highs back in the upper 80s. Once you factor in the dew point, possibly feels like the lower 90s, but still not too bad out there for Labor Day weekend. Your full forecast on the way in just a few minutes. Steve?
All right, Cameron, thank you. Several schools in Letcher County were impacted by the July 2022 flood, and renovations in those schools are continuing. WYMT's RJ Johnson spoke with officials about what still needs to be done more than a year later.
Since the July 2022 flood, building back better is something several people have made their mission throughout the rebuilding process. Superintendent Denise Yant says that is no different for Letcher County schools.
We want our buildings to be the best that they can be, and so our goal was to build back better than we were before, and I think we've definitely done that.
Assistant Superintendent Josh Yant says it's been a long process getting students back into the buildings, but says they still have a long way to go.
We still have some projects upcoming with our alternative education building renovations. We've got some work at the Fleming Neon Gym, work at there, and the Whitesburg Middle School football field. Other than that, we're progressing pretty good rate.
He says projects are expected to cost approximately $20 million, with the district already spending $12 million.
And which kind of makes that $20 million sound like a pretty good estimate. I mean, because we still have work at a couple of our athletic complexes, finishing touches on our buildings, and our alternative education building still has not been touched to the extent of our others.
Which is something he says he hopes to be complete next year.
So, we're hoping, I'd like to see the district look in a completely different way financially and visually in the next year. I think we can be back in a really good place.
Something Denise Yant says she knows they can do.
It lets you know that we can do it. We can still do it, even though there's a lot to do. There's a long list that we want to complete and finish, but we've come so far in a year that stuff seems to be minor, and that we'll make it to that end goal.
In Letcher County, RJ Johnson, WYMT Mountain News.
Both Denise and Josh Yant say getting the funds has not been the easiest. However, to make these upgrades will make it all worth it. Starting today, student loan borrowers are going to see their interest rates go up. It's just another readjustment students are having to make in the post-pandemic world. Since the beginning of the pandemic, student loan borrowers had felt some relief when student loan repayments were paused. Former UK student body president and 2021 graduate Courtney Wheeler says with interest rates going up, this just adds to an already high cost of living.
We know the cost of everything has gone up, including housing, apartments, food. I mean, the list goes on. Everything has gone up in price. So the cost of living is very expensive.
While the interest on the loans begins today, monthly payments will not begin again until next month. September is Suicide Prevention Month, and one multi-county partnership is putting mental health in the spotlight. WYMT's Buddy Forbes has more from a show that is starting a dialogue about depression.
313, 314.
Let's look at the things that we're hopeful for, the reasons for living. And, it can be every brilliant thing just like the place is.
I started leaving post-it notes around the house stuck to various things.
A partnership promoting suicide prevention, one post-it and production at a time.
It's been very meaningful to watch students respond, to watch them laugh when we get to play with their faculty members. Occasionally to see students who are in tears or who come up to us afterward and say, this is something that I've personally experienced.
The Appalachian Center for the Arts, Arendelle Theatricals, and the Eastern Kentucky University Psychology Clinic are reminding students to take note of every brilliant thing, to serve as a reminder when they may need it most.
And that's exactly the whole purpose of the show, is just to say, keep going because things can get better.
The play dives into one man's story of depression and suicidal thoughts, sharing how he made a list of every brilliant thing in the universe that makes tomorrow worth waiting for.
I said yes.
Just let people know how common it is to kind of have thoughts like this so that they can ask for help or seek help for friends.
A one-man show, reminding people they are never truly alone.
I'm heard. This is an issue that is not just my own. There is a group of people that this is affected by, they may be having thoughts of their own, and that's really scary to talk about.
Giving those in need a place to turn.
It opens up a line of communication for mental health resources, especially here in Appalachia, and that's something that really means a lot to me, is trying to get people here the resources that they need.
While giving the stage to something that often only gets silence. In Pikeville, Buddy Forbes, WYMT Mountain News.
The show has been hitting area high schools in the last few weeks and will take the stage at the Appalachian Center for the Arts in Pikeville next weekend. Folks in Harlan and Bell counties are turning tragedy into hope. After the death of Elena Embry in July, folks have been giving money to Bell County Commonwealth's attorney Lisa Fugit. In turn, Fugit donated the $1,100 she received to the Southeast Education Foundation at Southeast Kentucky Community and Technical College. SKCTC has created a memorial scholarship in the 17-month-old's honor. If you want to donate, we have more information on our website.
Well, warm weather does continue into Labor Day weekend. That full forecast on the way after this break. Plus,
a new memorial honoring coal miners is now on display in Letcher County.